What we're going to talk about right now is our power packs. The hydraulic power packs drive all of our brushes and our wraparounds, tire brushes, all hydraulic motion. Power pack consists of a electric motor, a hydraulic pump, flow control valves, and a tank and reservoir. We have a low oil switch that's mounted internally in the tank that's designed so that if we do get a leak in a motor seal or a cut hose, as soon as we drop a small amount of oil in the power pack, our low oil switch will shut the power pack off so we don't contaminate our reclaim system and don't lose all our oil. A couple of key maintenance items on here is one is to watch our oil level, which is on the side of the tank. We've got a temperature gauge and an oil level. We're full right now up so that we float that switch. If we drop an oil, you'll see it in the gauge here. If it's dropped in oil below even the top of the sight glass and the switch hasn't kicked out, this could be a problem with the switch. Might have been jumped out by somebody not knowing, so you want to keep an eye on that. Also the temperature gauge. We don't want to see that oil running upwards of 160 degrees continuously. If it is, then we might have a resistance problem, or we might have an oil breakdown problem. If we get moisture in the tank, the oil in here will turn murky. What you see here is the color of the actual oil. If we see it change color or turn murky brown so we can't read it, the oil's contaminated, and then it should be changed out and replaced. One of the items that need to be serviced on a periodic basis, depending on the volume and the condition of the filter and the condition of the environment, is the oil filter. The oil filter, it should be serviced probably every 6 months to every 1 year, depending on how busy the location is. This location here, we're going to be out in the atmosphere in the tunnel. We're going to get some corrosion on the outside of this filter. It may need to be changed more often. It's just like an automotive filter. It unscrews. It's got a gasket on it. The gasket needs to be lubricated when it's reattached. Okay? It's got to make sure the gasket comes off and we don't double gasket the filter so we don't cause leaks. When we put it on, it's a hand-tight application. It does not need to be killed. Just like a car, you put it on and then do another 3/4 of a turn once it hits the faceplate. On the power packs, you'll usually find a brand valve like this one here or a Prince valve. They both do the same function. They're a flow control valve. The way the pumps are sized, depending on the horsepower and the volume of the pump, if it's a 12-gallon a minute or an 11-gallon a minute pump, and you want a certain amount of pressure, be able to run a certain amount of pressure, you need a certain amount of horsepower. These are sized accordingly when you order the equipment to run the different pieces of equipment that you chose. This happens to be a 7.5 horsepower power pack with 2 flow controls that we use for our wraparounds. One flow control is running the driver's side, one flow control is running the passenger side. The flow control valve has a scale on it that reads from 0 to 10. If we take this and push this all the way down to 0, then this flow control valve will flow no oil through the black hose, which is our feed. It'll take everything and dump it to bypass. If we take this up and run it to 2, that'll be 20% of whatever we're getting out of this pump. If it's a 10-gallon a minute pump, that means we'll get 2 gallons a minute to our unit. The different flow rates will determine how much speed we have. Once we set our speed properly on both of our units and have them running at the proper RPM, if we have a problem or an issue where we see them stalling on the side of the vehicle because they get caught on a tire or trailer hitch or there's too much resistance, there's a secondary adjustment that adjusts the torque or the bypass, which basically is how easy it is for the unit to be stalled and how easy it is for the oil to go to the bypass mode. Take a look at that adjustment. We need a crescent wrench to loosen the hex nut that's on the brand valve. Okay, we loosen the brand valve nut. It's got an O-ring in there. We want to make sure we don't lose the O-ring. And then we're left with an Allen head adjustment. With the proper size Allen screw, we can put it in here. If we turn it clockwise, we will increase the torque, making it harder for the brush to stall, keeping it running the same speed around the entire vehicle. If it's too aggressive and we see that it's not stalling, it maybe on a trailer hitch or is too fast or too aggressive on the vehicle, we can back it out a half a turn at a time and release the pressure. It's all a matter of feel. They come factory set at 1,000 PSI bypass, which is normally okay for most of our operations. In some situations, we want to turn that back on a wraparound because we'd like it to stall on a big tire or on a trailer hitch. However, on a conveyor, when we get it loaded up, if we have all SUVs, we sometimes want to get those SUVs loaded on the conveyor and then turn that torque up so that it won't bypass and keep pulling those vehicles through. So that's what we call our torque adjustment on a brand valve. When we're done with our adjustment, we put our cap back on, take our wrench, and again, because it's an O-ring seal, we don't have to kill it, we just got to snug it up. And that'll take care of that adjustment. Our fill cap on the other side is here so that we can funnel oil into it. If you're doing an oil change, you can undo the bolt here at assembly, take out that whole cover, and be able to pump the oil in much easier without resistance to do a full fluid change. When the time comes that you do change the oil, there is a drain plug on one end of the unit where we can pull the drain plug, catch a tray on the bottom, and drain the oil out of that, dispose of it properly, return the plug back to where it belongs, and then fill the oil power pack back up again. Again, if we follow these simple maintenance steps, visually inspecting the power pack, servicing the oil filter, keeping an eye on the oil temperature and oil level and oil condition, you'll enjoy long life of not only your power pack, but even your hydraulic motors and your entire hydraulic system.